What's up, everybody? Been getting my crash course here in Honda CBRs 929, probably 954 is the same too. Fuel pump issues. My fuel pump went out a little while back. I've had this bike since '05. I had one go out, I don't know, back in 2010-ish. At that time, I found somebody online locally that said he can rebuild them or make them work. I ended up sending it to them. They sent it back. It worked great. Fast forward another 10, 12 years, and now it went out again. So this time around, I decided to do it myself. Figured, we all know that on eBay they go for about $350. And really all you're buying is something pulled out of another bike ready to go out, just like ours did, right? So they could last 10 years, they could last 1 year, they could last 1 month or a week. It's a ticking time bomb, just like ours are, right? So considering that, $350 doesn't seem that great, right? So I figured, whatever, it's just a pump, right, that I'm looking for. I'll buy one of them Chinese ones on eBay, and they range from 15 to 40 bucks. I could buy 10 of them before I hit the price of a used OEM one, which who knows how long that will last. So I figured if I can change 10 of them for the same price, then chances are out of 10 of them will probably last longer over time. Anyhow, I ended up getting one, and I changed it. That's actually the new one there. Don't mind the zip tie, that's a separate story there. But as most of you probably already know, they don't come with the right strainer. I ended up buying a separate strainer pack of like 5 different ones. In the pictures, one of them kind of looked like it. It ended up being the right size for it to fit in there, down there. And but still, it wasn't that easy. I mean, I had to basically take off my OEM strainer off of mine to reuse the neck on it, and I had to take this new one, which is buried there, down there. I took it off of its neck, and I reused it on the OEM neck. I made it work. So far, I used that zip tie because this China crap pumps, the bottom, they have a bottom little black rubber piece that goes on them, and between that and reusing my OEM neck, it just didn't feel strong enough for it to sit together as you're assembling it back. So that's the reason for the zip tie, was to keep it all strongly together. So anyhow, I put in this new pump, and long and behold, put it back, turn on the key, and it worked. Now granted, I didn't have time to put the tank back together and bolt it all up by the time I was finished, so it was sitting here in the garage. I started it, probably for like a week straight, every other day or something. I was just happy to hear it run again, right? And long and behold, not even a week later, it stopped working again. And yeah, it was disappointing. I was pissed. Granted, at least I didn't bolt everything back up. So back to my original idea. Okay, well, I can get about 10 of them for the price of an OEM one. So I bought another one, and that would be this one right here. That's another pump. And but this time around, I mean, instead of dealing with all that again, first I was just, well, let me see if I can just plug it in and it works. And sure enough, it didn't turn on. So I was like, okay, well, it already sounded weird that it would work when I did the first one, and then just stopped working within a week. after probably, I don't know, 5-6 starts, and let it run for like about half an hour each time. So good thing I try to plug it in first and just to see if it turns on. So that kind of led me down this whole rabbit hole of diagnostics and reading for hours on the forums and watching everything I could possibly find. So in retrospect, what I would do different next time I have a no prime issue, and I'm sure a lot of you guys watching this are probably having the same issue, I would probably go about it a different way. Process of elimination, now that I kind of have a good bearing on what's what and what can cause each different type of issue. So all that being said, here we go. So if my fuel pump stopped priming, where would I start? Number one, I would start with turning the ignition on, right? And giving it the switch, and I will listen here to see if there's any noise from the relays. Let me do that again so you guys can hear it. So that was 2 clicks. I'm gonna do it one more time. 1 click, 2 click. That's your relays. There's 2 of them here. I'm not sure if they both do that noise, but at least one of them does. I think they both kind of do it. That's your relays, right? And what are the 2 clicks? The first click is to start the prime, that noise that disappeared when something went out. And the second click is to stop that priming, right? And then you would start your engine and your bike would run. So number one, if you're giving it power, you got your switch on, you give it power, and you don't hear those 2 clicks like that within 2-3 seconds of each other, chances are probably one of your relays is bad, right? Because you don't hear it. So the 2 relays, one's here sitting in front of the battery, well, not in front of it, but right by the ECU. It's got a little compartment here next to the ECU. The second relay that it could be is this guy right here, which would be sitting here at the bottom of this guy when it sits here. And these 2 relays here, this one and this one, you guys might already know this by watching other videos. They're pretty easy to double check if they're bad. You would have to take off your windscreen, and this is this first relay here is your headlight, high beam, low beam relay. Don't freak out. If you unplug it, you'll still get your headlight to work, but when you hit your high beams, it wouldn't switch over. That's what this relay does. The second relay here is your turn signals. This relay is the same as these 2 relays. So if you're not hearing the click sound here when you're turning your ignition to on, if you don't hear those 2 clicks within 2-3 seconds of each other, chances are you got a bad relay. Use this relay here, take it one at a time and replace it with one and then the other, and see if that fixes your problem. It should, if you don't hear the sound. And that will mean that your pump was not priming because one of those 2 relays went bad. That will be the first thing I would probably go about. The next thing I will go about is this plug right here. This plug is basically, as your tank sits here, your fuel pump is here. That's your plug for your fuel pump. It's a 3-pin plug. You got green and 2 browns. Green is ground. The other 2 browns are 2 positives. The middle one, the one in the middle, that's your low fuel light indicator, which is this little guy right here on the fuel pump, right over here. And then your far away brown on the corner, that's your power for your fuel pump. Okay, so that's what gives it power from this relay that you hear clicking, and after you turn on the bike, that's what gives it power, gives power to the fuel pump. So that will be step number 2. Let me see if I can set the phone down here. So the number 2 thing I would do is I would take a simple light check little thingy with a light. I'll hook it up to ground over here, and I will see if I have power. And to do that, I would turn the ignition to on. You can have your switch off to test each one. So like I said, the middle one is your low fuel light indicator, and as you can see, you get a, if you stick it in there, where is it? In the middle one, right? The light turns on. It's actually pretty dim. Why? Because it operates on a really low voltage, your fuel light indicator, right? Now your corner one, like I said, the brown on the side, that's your power. Now if you plug that in, you have nothing. Why? Even though my ignition is on, because you only get power in this when you first either turn on the ignition or with the switch on the handlebar on, or if you flip the switch off and back on, for it to prime, it will give it power, right? So let's try that. I have my prong in there, so let me switch the switch on. Boom. And that's strong power, right? That's 12 volts. That's why the light is strong like that. And you notice it turns off, and you also hear the clicks from the relays, right? Because my relays are good. So you turn it on, click relay off. That's your priming right there. That's what most of us lost at some point in our troubles. Why does it turn off? Because it just primes it for 2-3 seconds. The next step would be to turn the bike on if it worked properly. At that point, it will get constant power, and your fuel pump will be doing its job, and this light will be steady on. So this kind of double confirms for me that my relays are good. They're doing their job. They're giving power to prime. So that tells me I have power here going to the fuel pump. So what's the next step, right? At this point, you would have to take out the fuel pump out of the gas tank. All these previous steps you could do without the mess of the gas, of messing around with gas. So at this point, you're going to end up taking your fuel pump out and messing with a bunch of gas everywhere, which is always fun. So what's left? I mean, this harness goes to the fuel pump. 3 wires. We already said the green is ground, the other 2 are power. The middle one is your low fuel light. Your corner one is your power. So these are these 3 wires on the back side of the fuel pump here. You got your green, ground, and then the 2 brown ones. Out of the 2 brown ones, the one closer to the feed, gas feed here, is actually your power that we were just talking about on the corner here of the harness. And then the farther away from the gas feed line, the farther one, that's your low gas fuel indicator. That's how they are set up here. So what did I do next? Well, the same thing, using the little indicator to see if we have power. I decided to make sure we got power here, right? So I stick my little probe in there, and the same thing, I'm gonna cycle the button on and off. I heard my relay click on to prime and off. 2-3 seconds later, I saw my light come on, so I have power there. Okay, so now we're going to the next step, right? Where should it get power next? Well, that power one we were just talking about closer to the feed line is the blue wire inside your fuel pump. Everybody's gonna have one, right? So those are the 2 wires. The left one, brown, is your low fuel indicator. The blue one is your power for the fuel pump. So we're getting power on the back side. Next, we move on to this side of the pump. So for that, I'm just gonna use, instead of this light indicator, I'm just gonna use these little prongs. Let's see here. So I'm gonna hook up one of these little prongs to that wire that we just talked about, the blue wire, right? And I'm gonna hook up the other side of it. Oh, actually, sorry, this will be the next step after that, to show you that that is the problem. Basically, first I'm still gonna use the light prong, and I'm just gonna put it on the blue wire here, on the metal little ear on it. And same thing, when I flip the switch, this should turn on for about 2-3 seconds, the light. No light. And I did hear my relays doing their job. So one more time, click, the light should be on, click, now the light should be off. So that's my problem. In between the backside and the inside, the power is lost. Why? Well, because apparently I don't know. I haven't dug into to destroy this epoxy here or this side to see which part is bad, but it loses signal from the outside to the inside of the pump. That's my problem. Now the next part, and you could do this earlier too, as I was saying, I'm going to hook up a prong here on this side, and I'm going to hook up the other prong to where it should be getting its power from, right? The first brown wire on the side. Why am I doing this? Basically, I'm trying to jump the power from where I know it's coming to where I know it's not getting it. So I'm just jumping the power, right? So here we go, flipping the switch. And right now the pump should have primed. It didn't. Why? Because I probably don't have the prong in there really good. Let me try it again. There it is. There's the pump priming. So there's nothing wrong with the pump. All I did was jump the power that it's supposed to get from the back side of the pump to the front, to the inside of the pump. And long and behold, my pump is priming, right? The Chinese pump that I just put in, and I thought it went bad a second time. So that's my problem. I'm losing power in between the outside and the inside. Obviously, you could also test the pump from the top part, from the switch here that you plugged in. You could give it power there directly to your battery, and it will do the same thing. You'll hear it run or prime. So my next step, obviously, I'm gonna have to fix that somehow to get power through the actual fuel pump, because somehow that's shorted out, or it's not making contact on one or the other side. That's it, really. That's kind of how I would go about it the next time my fuel pump doesn't prime. Now I have an extra pump here that I don't even need, but whatever. Again, they're like 15 bucks a pop. And what else we got here that we can point out from my crash course that I got here? Right here, we got the tip over sensor. This thing sits right here. That's another thing that could affect it and not get power. This thing, it sits like this. If you flip it upside down, if you do your switch, you're not gonna hear any relays, because it thinks that the bike is upside down. So obviously this thing needs to sit right to hear it, right? What else we got? So we got a tip over switch. We got 2 relays here that are important. We got the fuel pressure regulator here. I'll be honest, I've read a little bit about it and I heard a little bit about it. I'm not sure. I haven't messed with it to figure out what to test there, or I don't know the process of seeing of what could be wrong with that to affect this. But from the little information I found touching on it, that could be a source of problems too. I will leave it for last. And then the last part is your ignition. In my reading, I also found out that there's a diode in this ignition at the bottom of it. I haven't got all the info on that either, but apparently it's an anti-theft system, and there's like a little diode that changes the voltage from when you turn the key from 12 volts to 9 volts. That little diode in there is also prone to going bad sometimes. If it does, that will also tell the ECU not to give fuel, basically not to start the bike, right? I'm not sure if, I don't know what the symptoms of this part is, to be honest. I haven't dealt with it, I haven't really seen it, I haven't learned it yet. But I don't know how the ECU reacts when that goes bad. I don't know if your relays will stop clicking or not. I don't know if you still have power in your power wire or not. I just haven't really found that info yet, and certainly doesn't seem like that's my problem. So anyhow, for anybody else out there, power loss between the outside here of the fuel pump, this connection here closest to the feed, to the blue wire here that supplies power to your pump inside of it. That's my loss of power point right there. So now I got to figure out how to get power from one to the other. It's gonna be a messy one. I'm not looking forward to it. I mean, I gotta pick a side and start melting that epoxy or whatever it is that's holding it, and start with one side, flip a coin. I'm probably gonna start with the blue side. Probably gonna start digging here a little bit because I already know there's power there. I mean, it could, you know, the loss of power could be in the center of it, in between. It could be on one side more than the other. I'm gonna start on the blue side, and then go from there. Probably buy some epoxy. If I figure it out, obviously it's gonna soldering, whatever it takes. I'm not sure yet. You're gonna need some epoxy to seal it back up. Last resort, I don't know. I might even end up drilling a little hole, find a tiny little screw with a nut, make 2 new years, use a year on this wire on the back of the screw, and I put a year on this blue wire on this side, tying them up, and epoxy the whole damn thing together. But you know, that doesn't sound like fun either, to be honest. But gotta figure this part out. If you're lucky and you find somebody local to you with a bad fuel pump already that didn't go through all this trouble to figure all this stuff out, man, maybe you can pick up one for cheap. Obviously, this is not a fuel pump issue. This is a fuel pump housing issue, right? So, all right, well, good luck, gentlemen.